that wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, go like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Milam. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. When I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Par-Mar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Par-Mar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Par-Mar app and sign up for the Par-Mar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Par-Mar stores.
If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
Hey, Buckhannon, get ready for Jimbo's Place and the WolfMan's Call. Monday, August 7th, downtown Buckhannon. Jimbo's Place is the grand opening, man. Show kicks off at 4. So does Jimbo's Place. Be there or be square on the WolfMan's Call. Boom! Hello and welcome. This fine day, all fired up, all ready, and we got it going on today. We got some great things happening, and I can't wait to get our first guest on. I've been waiting for this for a few days now. We had a possibility, had to work out the schedules, but we have it. We have Drew Fabianich, who is the general manager, and director of scouting. This is a huge get for the Mountaineers. This is great for the old gold and blue. And without any further delay, I just want to get right into it. But let's welcome Coach Drew Fabianich. Coach, how are you, sir?
Hey, Dale. How are you? Pleasure to be here with y'all.
Oh, it is a pleasure for sure. And welcome to Morgantown. Welcome to WVU. It's only been a week or two, right?
Week.
A week.
Exactly a week. We rolled in about 3:00 last Thursday, and then when I went right into the office on Monday. I mean, it's been a whirlwind.
Wow. Well, hey, you know what? With your background history, though, that's kind of what you're used to, anyways. I believe, and we were talking beforehand about your history. It's really extremely fascinating. But let's get into, first of all, is general manager and director of scouting. What does that entail?
Well, I mean, to make it, simple, and I'll bounce back into the details, right after this. I mean, I oversee everything, in the football part of the side of it is recruiting goes and scouting goes, other than the coaching. That's it. And I'll also assist with, some of the advanced scouting, of opponents, specifically, by position, which I did for years and years, as a scout in the NFL. But that's the basics of it. I'll oversee all the high school recruiting. I'll oversee the transfer portal. I'll get incredibly involved in both, because I still feel like I can recruit and sell the NFL to every young man that, believes he's going to develop into an NFL player, because, I've pretty much seen it all, heard it all, and been through it all. And, I think that I can help develop these young men into what they think they can be. So that's basically it, Dale. I mean, I can get in depth a little bit more, but that's what I'm trying to concentrate on right now. Matter of fact, I'm breaking down and writing up the entire roster right now. I've started with offense, and I'm going to work my way into defense, and I should be probably done within about 3 days. And just to let, Coach Brown and his staff know what I see, because, when you coach, which I did for 17 years, and, you've recruited the young man, you've been part of, bringing him to a place, sometimes you look at him through rose-colored glasses and you forget, and overlook some of the flaws. Well, I'm here to find the flaws, to improve those flaws and turn them from a negative into a positive. That's what I'm here for. And I want to let these coaches coach ball. And I want to handle everything else as far as personnel goes. I'll do the roster management. I'll handle, I'll help in, setting the value on some of these players, as far as that goes too. So
that is really impressive. And so just so people can understand when you say general, now I got the idea of general manager and letting coaches coach and roster management and how college football has changed. And it is so much more like the NFL now every day and day, especially when you bring in the transfer portals and you bring in the NIL and everything. Money makes everything crazy and of course, hopefully this whole NIL thing that will be regulated someday, hopefully in the very near future, where it's more like the NFL with caps and all that for equal balance and ground. But I have to go back and I have to say about, you just came from, I believe, from Auburn, right, where you were there.
Right.
And before that, you have 37 years of teaching, coaching, talent acquisition. I'm actually reading this right from Mike Montoral's his description of you. But, 37 years, 18 as part of the Dallas Cowboys, last 14 as a national scout. I mean, you were telling me before, back in the day, you had to write all the possible draft picks down, and that was 12 rounds. That wasn't even 7 like they do today, just how taxing that was. And you've seen players after players for the last, honestly, 20 years at that next level. You have been at college. You have been there all the way through up to the NFL, just evaluating. But first, you started out coaching, which is a great basis, number one, of course. But again, go ahead and just give us a little background, if you will, on how you came up and worked your way, because you worked your way through all this.
Well, then the one thing I forgot to tell you, my dad coached too.
Okay.
So, I was truly involved with coaching from the time I was, on the practice field. Probably, I'm going to say he probably let me on the field about 8 years old, and I was a ball boy then and worked my way through, actually playing not for him. He wouldn't actually let me play against. He wouldn't let me play for him, Dale, because
I understand that in a way.
Yeah, he was like, "You're not going to play quarterback just because you're my kid. You're going to go earn it somewhere else." So I actually played against him for 3 years. And then I went on to Mesa, and that's where I broke my back, broke my 4th and 5th lumbar. And I was, like I said, I was really lucky to be around a coach that thought I had a lot of football knowledge. And he made me a student assistant right off the bat to keep me on scholarship. Worked my way from there to be a graduate assistant at Baylor, then which I worked for Grant Taft, which was one of, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Then I got lucky enough to meet Larry Lacewell, and he hired me onto Johnny Majors' staff there at Tennessee. From Tennessee, I went to be a coordinator at Tennessee Martin on defense. Then I went to Northeast Louisiana as a defensive coordinator. Then I jumped over to Texas thinking I was going to be a head high school coach, and I coordinated 2 years over there. And it just so happened that, if you're not a Texan, you're probably not going to get a head coach.
Like the road, don't they?
Yeah. And, and it was real. And I got lucky enough for, Coach Parcells called me because he hired 2 assistant coaches that had coached for me at Tennessee Martin. And one of them was Mike McIntyre, that was the head coach at Colorado. And now he's at FIU. And then Casey Rogers, he's been all over the NFL, and now he's defensive coordinator with Tampa Bay. Well, he decided to hire a full-time teams coach when he interviewed me for the nickel job and assistant teams coach. But then he said, Larry Lacewell would like to talk to you about personnel. And again, Larry Lacewell is the one that hired me at Tennessee, so it was kind of an easy thought process. Mm-hmm. I truly miss coaching every day, but it's a way to stay in it. And I enjoyed what I was doing. And I worked my way up from being a combine scout, which is the grunt work in the spring of setting up the draft year for teams that pay for the services, to actually get the names and numbers of every school that they're supposed to go to.
Right.
Well, I went from that to an area scout, in the South, the Midwest and the Southeast. And then I got bumped up to the national scout which I went and saw the top prospects in the country for 14 straight years. And I was one of two people that wrote every single player that we had on our draft board that we would possibly draft. So I set the value of a lot of position stacks. Like if there was 3 quarterbacks, we had discussions, but I may have been the only person to see all 3.
Right.
And what I pride myself on is in those 18 years, we had 67 Pro Bowl appearances of the players that we drafted, not free agents, but drafted. And I'm going to bounce back a little bit. When you said college ball has become the NFL, it's actually harder because the transfer portal is free agency with no contracts. In the NFL, you have restricted and unrestricted free agents, right?
Right.
Everybody else is not free game. Well, everybody in college football now is free game. And that's what makes it hard, because you could be developing a young man and then all of a sudden somebody throws a big NIL deal at them. Well, they may decide to leave, So what do you have to sell them? What's going to keep them at a place? Well, what I'm going to try to keep them, how I'm going to try to keep players like that is it's not about the fast money. It's about developing into an NFL player where you can make generational money.
Right.
And that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the kids. I'm also here to let the coaches coach, but I'm here for the kids to develop them into exactly what they want to be and what they're capable of. Not everybody's going to play in the NFL, that. But, if you got a chance and you've got the skill set, I think I can help develop that because I'm going to tell everybody in the building and I'm going to show everybody in the building those evaluations from the nutritionist to the strength coach, assistant coach, coordinator, head coach. Here's what he needs to work on. Well, if he improves that, he may end up playing the NFL. If he doesn't, he's probably not. So that's really what I'm here for, Dale. And I hope that's important to young men. I think it is because, and I'm not being pompous, but there's nobody in NFL in this role that has 17 years in coaching and 18 years in personnel in the NFL. There's nobody. Alonzo Highsmith's one of my best friends, and he's got the 18 years in the NFL. He's down in Miami now as a general manager, but he never coached. And that's not a slight to him. I'm just saying that I can talk to coaches differently than other people can because I coached every position other than O-line, tight ends, and running backs. So it's easy for me to do that with coaches.
Absolutely. And that's the greatest thing because you're best of both worlds when you have that because you can relate on either side to the personnel. And it's so important in today's day and age. And just to go back and tell everybody else is you don't have a fingerprint left on your index finger because you go back, you go so far back that you're actually cutting up the film like we used to do in the old days. And that's what cutting up actually means to clips is you actually had to cut the 60 millimeter film or 8 mil, whatever it was.
The 16 millimeter.
16, yeah. And you had to cut up and then you had to tape it. So they had a reel of the same play to watch. Oh, I hated that as a graduate assistant. And you lost your fingerprint. So you've sacrificed, you've paid your dues for sure. You came up the hard way, but it's also a way that you now have that experience and that knowledge.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I learn something new every day, Dale. I do, and if I'm very self-aware of that because this landscape's going to change every single day now, until, like you said, until it's regulated, and until it's like they said, a salary cap, until they put together a collective bargaining agreement for the players, it's going to be just like this until it stops. And so you have to adjust. And that's what I try to do every day. I try to look at a different way to approach it that we did in the NFL. And, we have ready lists for players and everything else. As soon as that portal opens, we're on top of it. I set it up for Auburn to be successful. And I think that they've, followed the plan and actually worked their way, to be successful with what I brought to the table. It's just, hey, when a head coach, comes in, sometimes wants you, sometimes he doesn't. And that's just the way this game works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's for sure. It's unmerciful as well. All right, so let's just say, how long has this general manager kind of job in college? I mean, because WVU certainly never had that before. and with everything that's coming incorporating in, obviously Auburn was ahead. SEC's always seems to be a little bit ahead because they always got more money than everybody else. And how long is this really? I mean, is this the new norm?
I think it's going to be, and I think there's going to be more people like me that leave the NFL to do this because of the transfer portal, because you're evaluating college players just like we did in the NFL. It's comparing apples and apples, because if you're comparing high school kids to the transfer portal kids, the transfer portal guys are playing in college. The high school kids, you're evaluating ninth graders up, right? Well, that's a whole different animal to me. And that's just like in the NFL. When you're doing college is just like the high school kids. And then the pro free agency is just like the transfer portal. I think this has come into effect now because of the transfer rule with the transfer portal, and guys are getting almost 3 shots at sometimes playing if they can come up with some legitimate way, because it's supposed to be a one-time transfer rule, is it not?
Right.
Well, there's been 2 or 3 people or more than that have gotten 3 shots, and I think somebody's even got 4 at transferring. So again, it's a pro model that you have to compare apples and apples and be able to evaluate whether they're going to be a starter, or they're going to be a backup, or they're going to be a role player, or if they're just not good enough. And guess what? There are guys that aren't good enough that they're in the transfer portal, because again, how many were there? 1,700 that went in?
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
I think there's still over 850 in there right now.
Wow.
So, I mean, are those guys not good enough? Well, guess what? There may not be enough spots for them. And that's what a lot of these young men don't understand, that if, say there's only 10 scholarships left at a place, well, if those 5 of them fill up in December for transfer portal guys, and then the other 5 fill up, and, what am I going to do? Manufacture one? You can't, because you can't cut kids, right? They can leave if they want to, but truly you can't cut them like the NFL. So that's what I'm saying. This is harder than the NFL.
Well, I can see that. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Because you don't have them under contract. You don't. And that's the hardest part about it. I mean, at least in the NFL, you knew exactly who was going to be restricted, unrestricted free agent. And those that weren't were untouchable. So that's why it's harder, Dale, to me. And that's why I think if you don't bring somebody from the NFL that understands how to evaluate, college players, just like if you were doing a pro model, then you're going to have a tough time. You really are. And it isn't about saying, well, this kid was a 5-star recruit, when he was coming out. Hey, that's all well and good. What if he didn't play like a 5-star recruit when he played? Or if he was a 5-star recruit, he's playing like a 5-star recruit, why the heck is he leaving? There's usually a reason, right?
Oh, absolutely. I wonder, now you say that this is going to become the norm.
I do believe that, yes.
Where is this at right now? For how many teams? Where is West Virginia at this?
In the Big 12, probably one of 2.
One of 2.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And
the SEC is probably only 4 right now. The Pac-12 is like 2, and the ACC is 2. That's
You're
it.
saying 10 teams right now overall from the Power 5.
And Ohio State's got 1, and they've had one for a couple of years. And I don't know if they gave the title to Michigan State or not, but I think it was like an associate AD spot. But I don't know if they're treating it like a general manager or not. But like I said, there's not a lot when you know that there's 141 Division I schools now.
Yes. Huge.
I think there are some people that were ahead of it, and most of them that were ahead of it had pro ties, like Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. He knew he needed somebody to do that, and he's had Bob Welton for a long time, and Bob's done a great job at Alabama. I mean, he really has.
Yeah. And again, I was so fired up when I heard about this, because I was like, wow, this is exactly what you need in today's day and age in college football. I didn't realize there's only 10 in Power 5. That really is surprising. But also, hey, Mountaineer Nation, check this out, man. Top 10, looking forward, going ahead. I can't tell you how excited that makes me. I know that there's a lot of people in the past that would have said, "Boy, I wish we had one of those guys with that evaluation talent from the NFL." And when you sit there and you look at it, you're saying this is becoming the norm. And how far away is it, do you think? And how would you go about trying to correct? Now, they're talking about regulation with Senator Manchin, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, Senator Tommy Tuberville. Obviously, we know where he comes from in Auburn there. And with the way they're working out, how would you go ahead, coming from the NFL, understanding restricted free agents, understanding unrestricted, understanding the salary cap, how would you attack this landscape of transfer portal and name, image, and likeness?
I think they have to actually tie it to a 2-year contract. I really do. And they also have to set a universal salary cap, across the board, and a hard salary cap that changes just like the NFL. But when you do that, you're probably going to have to set up a collective bargaining agreement, because those NIL contracts are going to go up with the revenue going up and everything else. And I think that's the only way you're going to be able to actually stop it, because if you don't, there's going to be haves and there's going to be have-nots. And have-nots are going to struggle. They are, because they can't compete. There are certain, I won't name them all, but there are 5 schools out there that could write a blank check and have no problem doing it. So, again, why wouldn't they get every single player they want? Because they can outbid everybody. So you have to make it a hard salary cap that maybe is 1.5% change each year, an increase. Then you have to have a general manager then that splits up the percentages on what you're going to pay each position and what you're willing to pay. Mm-hmm. Because, if you pay the quarterback 60%, well, that 40% that goes to everybody else is going to be a little bit lower. Then how are you going to handle that when somebody else throws that at you? Well, they say, well, you're running back and your quarterback's making 60%, just like the NFL. Well, again, you have to I believe you got to tie a 2-year contract in with it. Now, again, I'd like to say it's a 4-year contract, but there's no way that that's going to happen. There's no way, because the kids don't have to do that, because right now they can leave.
Right. Yeah.
But to get a universal cap and an equal amount across the board with universities, I think that the players would actually agree to that. I would. So that's how I think you have to do it. And if you pass it federally, I don't think the universities I don't think there's anything they can do about it, correct?
I think you're right about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, again, there might be some states that fight that, which they can, and they can get an injunction and go against that. But, somebody, like I said, it's got to get regulated, because it's just so out of bounds now that it's uncontrollable in certain places. There were quarterbacks that will go unnamed that they said, I didn't get $5 million as an offer, but I'm sure he got 2. And, that was to leave a school.
Right.
And so, but how should that school feel about that when they may not be able to afford that $2 million? Because they may not, but they've recruited the kid, they've developed him and everything else. And now he can just say, okay, guess what? I'm walking for $2 million. Well, but you can also sell it as, guess what? If you keep developing like you have, we're talking about generational money, and you can be successful here. And here's the other side of it, Dale. What if a guy jumps in the transfer portal thinking he's going to put out tape for the NFL? And what if he's not good enough to play at another school? And he puts no tape out there? Well, the NFL's not going to draft him. Now, they may take him as a free agent just on height, weight, speed, or something like that. But, it's a slippery slope for them, too.
It sure is, yes.
Yeah. So I kind of roundabout, like I said, I did a roundabout sort of way on answering that question, but I think you have to tie a contract to it.
I find that really fascinating, and I very interesting. That's the first time I've heard the 2-year contract with that. Okay, so let's get to the team now. You got your daily duties, and you're talking. Obviously, you're going to sit there. You're going to educate these guys about the chances of the NFL, what your opportunities are, being that it's very difficult to make it to the NFL, and it's even harder to stay there longevity wise. And when you think about that's going to be an opportunity for you. But at the same time, Deion Sanders, in my opinion, is so successful out there right now, at least in this hoopla that he's had, is because I believe that his players believe he knows how to make them NFL players. I believe there's something to that. Or he's going to tell.
Don't disagree.
Okay, so with all the hoopla and that, but that's what you do. That's what you are.
Absolutely.
And then that's what the value of you at West Virginia, what we just talked about, the whole thing of NFL to college coaching to all this experience. But you're Deion. You're just not as pretty.
Well, and I'm not a Hall of Famer, and I'm not an incredible athlete, and I couldn't play both sports at a pro level. I mean, I got a great deal of respect for Deion, like you wouldn't believe. You know, and however he wants to handle the portal, however he wants to handle his program, that's his prerogative. If people don't like it, let's see what happens. Because guess what? He may be right. You know?
I think it's the greatest experiment of the college right now.
Well, and again, maybe he believed that there were 40 players out there that couldn't play in the Pac-12. That's his prerogative. I mean, and guess what? Those kids left. I mean, how many of them landed? You don't know. I mean, you know, but you know, and again, I don't want to compare myself with a coach, and I don't want to, compare myself to Prime, because, like I said, I've got incredible respect for him. I'm just a different avenue to develop players into the NFL. That's what I am. And, again, he can develop players too. He's proved it. So, again, like I said, I appreciate the comparison, but I don't like it just because, we're in a different realm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, but I'm still going to do that to you because I'm here and I'm not next to you, so you can't whack me. All right, all right, Coach. So no, this may not be fair to you because you just rolled in last Thursday.
Don't even. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell the viewers this too. I don't even know these kids' names. I didn't want to, because I came in here and I started evaluating these kids on the field by number, by position. And I started, evaluating them already. Okay.
Right.
Because I didn't want to come in knowing what year they were. Right. I didn't want to know their measurables because, I hate to say this, but, I'm not real keen on small players. That's the Bill Parcells in me. Big guys, small guys wear down, big guys don't get any smaller. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my mantra too. So it'd be unfair for me to even tell you what I think after 2 days of, running around in spiders, with no pads.
Okay. No, I understand. I didn't know how much you had it.
I didn't want to go to the spring ball. I didn't want to jump back because I wanted to see him after summer. I wanted to come in with fresh eyes, and I wanted to evaluate them just on who they are. And again, I think that's fair.
Oh, I think it's very fair too. And I'm taking that right out.
Yeah, because I've got no preconceived notions on any of these kids at all, none. And I was sitting here today watching one kid, and I'm going like, I really like that one. I won't tell you the number, but I was like, I really like this kid, and there were certain things that I really liked about him, and I think he'll be a really successful player. And I don't even know what year he is. I don't know if he's a transfer. I don't know, because I don't want to know, because once I'm done putting together a short evaluation and a projection, I'm going to present it to the coaches. And because, again, I wasn't influenced by anything, nothing. And I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Coach? I tell you, I like what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So let's end this with this. We understand about your duties and that you're there. You're a vehicle to help these young athletes. It's a vehicle to recruit. But game analysis, I want to know about game analysis and how you feel like you can go ahead. Are you going to go ahead and say, this after the game is over and they say, here was the game plan? Are you going to go ahead and evaluate that? Will you do it beforehand? What will you do? Or are you not allowed to say?
Well, put it this way. I'm going to look at opponents, and I'm very good at punching holes in players and finding weaknesses.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to help on individual players. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And
You know exactly where I'm going.
Better than to do that than a guy who's been looking at punching holes in, because you had to punch holes in players for your job. If you didn't punch holes in them and tell you what's wrong with them instead of more what's right, I'm sure that had to play into your job. All right.
But I can also tell them this too. I can also say that this one is a very good player, and we better account for him, and we better make sure that we chip him, or better make sure that we, double him, or some, things like that too. So it goes both ways, and that's where I think that the game analysis is going to come into effect, a little bit more than it has in the past, because, it's what I did. I mean, and it comes pretty naturally.
Yeah, and it's no insult to anybody around, but if you don't have the years of experience in the NFL, you just don't have it, and that's just the way it is. Because you got to do it to know it. You got to do it to know it, and it's like anything else in life, but especially when you're talking about the elite.
Yes, and put it this way: the elites are easy to see, are easy to scout, are easy to evaluate. Mm-hmm. The ones that you think are going to be developmental and become that elite player, that's the art of it. And I mean, and it's an art. It really is. So, and again, I was really incredibly lucky to be around the right people. I was incredibly lucky to be in coaching as long as I was. I mean, and again, everything has brought me to a point where I think that I can be helpful. And I don't want to say, put it this way, the recruiting here isn't broken. Okay. It just needs enhanced. And especially, in certain areas. And I think my experience will help that, because, again, I don't know it all, but I know I can help. And I'm here to help the kids, and I'm here to develop the kids, and I'm also here to get them. And I'm a pretty good recruiter, too. I really am.
Oh, I believe that. You're pretty smooth right now, and even if you aren't as good looking as Deion Sanders,
you're not.
That. Coach, I want to thank you so much. I promise I'd only keep you within the 25 minutes. So I know you got a lot going on. Camp is going on. Best of wishes to you. Best to WVU. We're so glad you're here. Mountaineer Nation, if they didn't know it, is so glad you're here. If they know it now, or they will know it very soon. And we appreciate everything you're bringing of value to WVU.
Well, I appreciate that a bunch, Dale. And look forward to meeting you in person, too. Okay?
Absolutely. All right. Take care now. Thank you so much. Have a good.
Okay. You guys take care. Have a good one.
All righty. Woo. Boy, I could have talked for them for another hour and a half. Are you kidding me? We got another special guest coming on up, and John Adadamo. I want to make sure I say that right. John, he's giving me the thumbs up here. He's backstage, but I'm just going to bring you on, John, because I know you heard that. And
all right, what a treat that was, wasn't it?
I mean, it's unbelievable.
When everybody said fire Neil Brown, and he goes and he, you remember people were saying, let's get Rich Rod back, let's get some, let's fire the guy, He brings on somebody clearly sounds like he knows what he's doing, has a long resume, and I'm not going to look at junior, senior, whatever. I'm going to evaluate the talent on the field, and that's a meritocracy, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how Harbaugh does it too. So it's great to hear that.
You know what, man? First of all, welcome to the WolfMan's Call, John. This is your first time. You are the host. You're from the voice of college football. I wanted to play that, but I got so fired up and it got taken so long with Drew there that it was so exciting. And again, when you're looking at this and seeing that there's only 10 teams, maybe 11 or 12, whatever he was talking about. But again, this general manager and director of scouting, it's just coming about. And college football needs it with the transfer portal, with the NIL. They need all this, but they need the experience from the NFL. And that's where he comes in. And
he does.
This is the best move I've seen Neil Brown make. And I'm not ripping. That's not a negative. That, as he said, he's here to enhance. Well, Neil Brown enhanced the program, and that's going to pay dividends way down the road. Road. And
no, he's taking the right approach, and if I were you and I was hosting the show, I would keep him on long too. So, But no, I do host. So I do host Michigan Wolverines live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I also usually am the 8 p.m. host of the Monday night Big Ten live show. It's called the Ocho. So it's the 8 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern block,
I understood that.
7 to 5 Central Time. So
All right.
there it is.
Well, hey, John, that's great. We love having you. It's the voice of college football network. And that's what I wanted to do on this show because if I want to we have a network of pretty smart dudes. I don't know if we're all as smart as Coach Fab there.
No way.
But we're still pretty instinctive. We're still pretty good with it. And so let's go ahead and throw this on up with the Big Ten and talk about the team. What's the big storylines coming out of the Big? It was last week was the media day for the Big Ten. What's the storylines going on?
Oh, there are a lot. I mean, the last couple of days, we've had thousands of people stop by the Voice of College Football to hear about realignment and the potential for bringing on Oregon, Washington, Clemson, and FSU were thrown around. I think it's going to be Oregon and Washington at least. But, the stories are out there. I don't want to spend a ton of time on realignment because you can literally go back and listen to the last 3 nights of Voice of College Football, and we did like 10 hours on it. But there's a lot going on there. Mark Rogers was live in person at Indy for Big Ten Media Days, and I got to talk to him on Michigan Wolverines Live. He came on for our 100th episode special.
Ooh,
So Mark came and joined us live from Indy, and he, I guess some key storylines, and Mark asked really good questions that stuck right to them. Right? Is Michigan going to three-peat for the championship? Could they make it to the Natty? Could they get past the playoff? Could there be 3 teams in the top 7 in the Big Ten East alone? Is the Big Ten West going to be out of the McDonald's Funhouse and become a legitimate division before, of course, we get rid of divisions and go to the best 2 teams? So there's a lot being discussed on the Big Ten and where it stands in the kind of whole realm of things.
Yeah, there really is. And so who came out on top? Who are your tops? Obviously, it's going to be Michigan or Ohio State. Who was it? Michigan? Did they come out on top, or who did?
Well, my opinion of Big Ten Media Days, Jim Harbaugh, well, first of all, they served cheeseburgers at the lunch, which I thought was pretty funny. I'm wondering if Harbaugh had something to do with that, just a little jab at the NCAA for a 4-game suspension. But I think Michigan was very good. When he comes out, he has the trophies right there, like in your face. Every other team, you can hate on us, but the trophies are right here. So I thought that was a great set design, like a backdrop design that they did. And I think that he did well with answering the questions. He is a little awkward. It's part of his personality. We know this.
He's always been that way.
He's always been that way. But I mean, he clearly has an air of a triumph, which he deserves to have after the last 2 years of beating Ohio State thoroughly. And being on the top. So Michigan is up there. Ohio State has a lot of question marks, but they also return a lot of talent. So you got to look at Ohio State as somebody who will contend. And maybe they won't win the Big Ten, but maybe they get back into the playoffs like what happened last year. It's very possible that Ohio State has 1 loss at the end of this year, and they could go right back into the playoffs again. So quarterback is a question for them. O-line play is a question for them, and secondary is a question for them.
Okay.
Penn State, almost every
Penn State, that's our first opponent. So what are you going to tell us about Penn State?
Penn State, and this is almost every team in the Big Ten has quarterback question, except Michigan, Maryland. You could argue Purdue with Hudson Card. You could argue, there's a couple you could argue that are transfers, but the Cade McNamara at Iowa. But the two that don't have any question are Michigan and Maryland, right? That's it. Penn State is breaking in a new quarterback. He's really talented. He has an arm, but we also saw him play against opponents and not do so great.
Drew Eller.
Drew Eller, yeah.
He's big. He's got a gun, but he doesn't move very well in the pocket. He's not a running type. He's not a dual threat quarterback, but he is a cannon. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's pretty big.
He's got a cannon. He is a 5-star. He is going to have to be good. Their running backs are good, but they can be stopped against elite defenses. Michigan's pretty much stopped their running backs, whereas Michigan ran 417 yards on Penn State's Manny Diaz defense. So I think if you're a really good running team, you can beat them. I think if you have great quarterback play, you can beat them. And West Virginia, everybody's saying, even Joey Foster is like, West Virginia's not going to win that game. I'm like, well, it's not a foregone conclusion that Penn State will win. There is a chance. It's like the Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey in that movie. It's like you're saying there's a chance. There is a chance that West Virginia pulls it out. Penn State is going to be has a lot of question marks.
Let me ask you this, all right?
Yeah.
Because of all this conference realignment, you're talking Florida State, talking possible Clemson, right? And then you get out there to Washington. I saw the new report was that they're going Washington, Oregon, and then they want to go to the big schools with Stanford and Cal. That came out 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, all right. Well, they talk to everybody, might as well, I guess. But when you do that, and you're talking about 4 schools to the Big Ten from out the Pac-12. So Colin Cowherd came up with the thing about Nebraska. Nebraska died going into the Big Ten. They lost their roots in that Big 8. They lost their roots, their recruiting roots. Nebraska has not been anything since they went into the Big Ten. Again, I'm not hitting on the Big Ten. I'm saying Nebraska is a one-trick pony with football leading the way, besides their women's volleyball team. But with Nebraska, with the football, that's the thing. Can the Big Ten, USC, UCLA, those are name brands, they'll be fine. But can you bring up another 4 schools for the Big 12 or the Pac-12? Can you do that and enhance your product?
Yeah, and Tony is the guy when it comes to Stanford and Cal. But I will say that academics and research dollars do play a role in these decisions. And so when people, have, surface level takes, Stanford sucks, Cal sucks in football, it's like, well, you have to look at the big picture. Research, academics, how are they going to benefit the Big Ten as a whole? Because it can't just be a one-way, we want a big piece of that $1 billion media deal. It's got to go both ways, and there has to be a true symbiotic partnership. So Oregon and Washington have been more successful on the football field, but I can absolutely see why Stanford, with an Ivy League reputation, would be considered, and Cal is up there too. So I think they're considering them for the academics aspect, which plays such a big role. And I know Tony always talks about that too.
Absolutely. So is the Big Ten, are you guys snobby?
The Big Ten?
Yeah, you're just a little snobby because of the academics and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being truthful. That's why.
Well, the AAU, the Alliance of American Universities, is such a big piece of like, if you're accepted, you're probably in the AAU, or you're at least working towards getting into the AAU. The only school that isn't is Nebraska, because they lapsed on the membership. So or whatever happened with the membership, I forget, but they're not a member. So it's kind of Big Ten is a little snobby when it comes to academics. I went to Michigan. We're snobby. Like, it is what it is.
I would say so. I still like, Michigan, and I actually got recruited by Michigan, so I don't hate him. I don't hate him because that was in the bowl time too.
Oh wow! Well, if he thought you were something, then that means something.
Well, Joe Pa did too. So there, and then
boy,
all that.
oh man.
Let me ask you this: how close could Penn State come? I know you got questions there. You obviously with the quarterback, but how close do you think they could? They think this is their year for Big Ten.
Nope, they're going 9-3. I have a prediction, so everybody can go back and listen to my prediction show for Big Ten show the Ocho, where we went over every single school and all the predictions, and then we did another show on over-unders and where you take the over, where you take the under. And I have them at 9-3. They're going to lose probably to Michigan and Ohio State again, and someone else, Maryland. Who knows? Maybe even West Virginia. But I see a third loss, and it's just because they have a lot of question marks. And even their running backs, as good as they are, have been proven to be able to be slowed down and stopped by the best in the Big Ten.
All right, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. How much has Rutgers helped the Big Ten?
So to be fair, Rutgers is in a major media market.
How many people? Wait a minute now. Listen, come on now, John. Let's. I just asked you to be straight.
I am.
Okay,
I'm giving you the reasons why they were selected.
Right. Okay. No. Hang on. Let me just.
Okay.
When I'm in Manhattan, I've been in Manhattan many times.
Yeah.
And I played Rutgers many times. Okay. There are people in Manhattan. They don't give a darn about Rutgers.
True.
Okay. So we say the market, and then they don't give a darn about Rutgers.
Okay.
Okay, so now, wait a second. UCLA, Rutgers. I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
That Rose Bowl is going to fill up that first round, that ring, right? That first
round. Elephant in the room.
Hey, we'll talk about it that way,
man. Is that they suck, and they have sucked for quite some time.
Long time.
But if you remember back from when they were accepted, that was the previous Schiano era, when they were going 11 wins with Ray Rice and that group that was doing very well. So, and we already did talk about it's not just results. It's also about money. They're the second highest recruiting budget in the entire Big Ten. Look at what good it's done. Maybe not so much. But we are going to have, Wolfman, we're going to have on not this coming Monday, but the Monday after, Christian Dyer from Rutgers Wire is actually going to call into the show and talk to Mark probably. And so I recommend everybody listen into that. And, he can give his perspective on, directly from the Rutgers media, on why, what they might have contributed.
All right. Last question. I see it. Tony here is just coming on board. And when I see the Big Ten, I'm looking at it, and you have a great disparity, let's say, in between. SEC's got the same thing going, in my opinion. You look at your top teams of Ohio State, Michigan. I'll say Michigan for you first.
Thank you.
We got Whiskey. Minnesota's been good lately. Penn State. But there's a lot of teams that, Michigan State's been in a slump. That coach is on a hot seat. You know what I mean? I know I got a guy here, Frank Fear, is going to be upset at me. Nebraska, they're either saying Illinois might be something, but Indiana's down. Iowa it's either it's up or it's down. Purdue, they've been up the last year. My friend just got, Purdue, the coach left and my friend got fired for Purdue, and they were winning. And I just, right now, there's a big disparity in my mind. And I will say this, but the one thing about the Big 12 is I think of these teams, with Oklahoma gone after this year in Texas, whatever, I think they're all fairly even. Would you agree with that?
So here's the thing. So are you basically asking me to compare the conferences?
Oh, yeah, I'm saying this because I'm not saying that
because you're going to get to real MVP in the chat really riled up if we start comparing the conferences. But okay, every conference has their great teams and their crappy teams. Yep. So look at what happened with the SEC last year. Texas A&M, for all their 5 stars, went 5-7. Florida, not very good, right? Vandy, pretty usually terrible. Even Kentucky, not very good. Yes, Keep Chompin. I chatted with Keep Chompin because I want him on our panel. Please come onto our panel.
A little pompous. Those Michigan.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, look, we've been in the dark era. Please understand. We had Rich Rod, who wasn't as good for us as he was for you guys.
Right?
And then we had Brady Hoke, and we were in the dark pit of despair. Okay.
Yeah.
So now with Harbaugh, Michigan is seeing success. And yeah, it's a little enjoyable after all the years of, basically deep depression when I was going to Ann Arbor. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I think every conference has its strong and weak pieces. Georgia's the best team in the country. Nobody denies that. They've won the last 2 national championships, and they're favored to win a third. And nobody denies that they're the best team in the country based on merit, based on winning the games on the field and winning the titles. But I would argue Michigan and Ohio State are both better than Alabama in terms of coordinators, not in terms of like raw 5-star blue chip ratio, but in terms of the coordinators, in terms of the quarterback situation, especially Michigan. I think both of those teams could beat Alabama at least 3 or 4 out of 10 times, maybe more. So if you want to compare the two, I say SEC on top, Big Ten underneath. But the gap, which used to be here, I think it's now like here. And if Michigan or Ohio State win the title, then it starts to narrow further. We almost had we were 7 points away. Remember, we were 7 points away from a Michigan-Ohio State national title. It didn't happen, but that's how close we were to an all Big Ten national title. So this year, with 81% returning production with Michigan, Ohio State, we know, always has 5 stars all over the field, wide receiver talent especially. It's very possible that either of those teams or even both, I do think
there. That's good. But just remember this: you would have been 7 points away from a Big Ten national championship, but you did lose to a Big 12 TCU team.
You're right.
Okay, so that's got to hurt.
You're right.
I understand the motivation. I'll be interested to see if this suspension has any kind of just takes away from Michigan and their focus. I'm curious.
Nope.
Well, we'll see.
Not at all. And we talked about this on the Michigan show. So everybody can go back and watch. I think it was episode like 99, and we went over, or actually it was the 100th special because that's when it came out, and we talked about maybe it's Jesse Minter, maybe they do rotating musical chairs head coaches. Mike Hart might get in there. Sharon Moore might get in there. Jay Harbaugh might get in there, and Jesse Minter, just to emphasize the absurdity of this and that Michigan's program is so strong that it will continue. The 4 games, remember, are East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and I'm sorry, keep chopping, Rutgers. Those are winnable games. I think for the University of Michigan.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You are a Michigan fan. You're a Michigan student. I can tell very much, but you're knowledgeable, man. And I appreciate you coming on here, John Adadamo. And get it right.
Man.
Okay, so
you crushed it.
At John Adadamo and on Twitter there. Make sure you follow him. Good stuff. Hopefully we get to have you keep coming in here, man. Keep telling us about Big Ten. I'm going to remember everything you said. Everything.
I'm ready. I know I'm going to get stuff wrong. I know that. But I don't apologize. I have strong opinions, and I don't apologize for them. And I'll do where I was right and where I was wrong as we go through the season, because there will be a lot of both.
Very good, brother. All right. Take care, man. Thanks for jumping in the Big Ten on the WolfMan's call. John D. That's your new nickname for him. Take care, brother.
Thanks, Wolfman. Go blue.
Right on. All right, and let's introduce Tony Altimore. Tony, are you there? Maybe not. Tony, are you there? I see it's black. There we go. We'll go ahead and remove you here. And come on back in, Tony, if you can. I'll go ahead and put out a link. Maybe I should have kept John on a little longer there, but I don't know if I could take in more Michigan at this. I had my fill, man. But it's good stuff. I'm a big Jim Harbaugh fan. I got to tell you, I like the dude, man. He's a pretty tough guy. And do I see, let's see here. Tony, what's going on? You there, Tony? Yeah, now we're having problems here. So let me go ahead and get this link out here. Who wants to jump back on? Right here, I'm putting it out. You can jump on. Joey, I know you're out there if you want to come on. If not, Tony, I don't know what's happening, but our Big 12 or Pac-12 rep is having some technical issues. Maybe it's on my end. I have no idea, but I see him. He's right there. And we'll go ahead and keep going. All right. Hello. Not this time. Okay. So, again, let's go ahead and talk. Let's talk about what we just heard about today, because I think it's huge. Drew Fabianich, and with Michigan up there and doing everything. First of all, let me before I get back to Drew, let's talk about with Jim Harbaugh, because I think that what John did say, and he probably would have probably agree with me, but I think Jim Harbaugh is saving college football to some degree. He's bringing back that mean, tough running game, and it's really it's impressive when you have that, because you think about it. I love the running game. I love the physicality. It's great to have great quarterbacks. It's great to be able to throw the ball downfield, and they can. But Jim Harbaugh really brought back that old school type. Not saying it all the way back, but I'd say the attitude of the big offensive hungry linemen, and it made the defense tough. And it made the defense tougher, which is why they're such an overall team. I'm going to go one more time here. Tony, you there, buddy? Hello? Having problems with Tony here. I don't know. Sorry, everybody. And I'm sorry, Tony, because I'm really looking forward to getting you on for the Pac-12. But we're going to have to go ahead and let you go, brother. And maybe next time we'll get it next week. So the cool thing is, I heard got Tony here's going to say he's saying he wishes he could be here, man, and something's gone wrong with the software, and that's just the way sometimes it goes. But when you think about that with Jim Harbaugh, it's just really cool. I think he brought back the game, man. I think how important that really is. So let's talk about this with Drew Fabianich. Drew Fabianich, man, I'll tell you what. I don't get that fired up, as you know. Like, I get fired up about football. I get fired up about physicality. I get fired up about great plays. I get fired up about great players. I get fired up watching my alma mater, WVU. I love watching all football. I love every great football player, every good football player I respect, every semi-good football player I respect, even bad players I respect. But I get fired up over the good things of football. And in football, I've been around all my life. And in that lifetime, I have had a great experience. I got two brothers that in the NFL. I'll stand out here at WVU. Seriously, I coached at WVU. I've coached, been a head coach at my own team. It is exciting. This is one of the most exciting things to me when it comes down to football at WVU. That WVU was always, I'm not going to say this, but not a top 10 team in making moves, being progressive. Okay. Neil Brown, and you got to give Ren Baker this credit. Kudos to you. Again, on this show, the WolfMan's call, there's always truth in the call. I'm going to tell you when it's good. I'm going to tell you when I don't think it's good. I'm going to tell you when a player's playing good and when he can do better. I'm not going to sell out of my young bloods. All right? I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to be like, they suck. I don't do that. But I will encourage them, and I will, as you see me when I break down my film, that's what I do. But the bottom line is this. Drew Fabianich, mark this down. Mark it down. And I see it, Joe, but mark it down, because this is something really special. Really, really, really special. Mark it down, because you got a guy with 18 years of NFL experience at 14 with the Cowboys, and he had 67 Pro Bowlers in the draft. Now, again, it's a team. It's not just him. The dude knows what he's doing. And in this whole thing, you saw a guy of 37 years experience of coaching in there, so he can relate to the coaches because he had 18 years of coaching, 18 years of NFL evaluation personnel. He's going to manage the roster. And I wasn't kidding when I compared him to Deion Sanders. Okay, kids, young men, go play for Deion, in my opinion, because he's exciting. He's got all these wonderful attributes about him. He's playing two sports, one of the greatest corners, if not the greatest corner to ever play the game. But when the kids think they can learn from him and be developed by him, and when he says, you got talent to go to the NFL, but I got to build you, they're going to listen, right? That's the hoopla about Deion. That's in my opinion. Besides all the great motivation he does, and I don't want to get into I like Deion, I don't like Deion. That's not what it's about. Because the kids do, the young men do like him, and they do trust in him if he believes in you. And that goes back to what I always say: if you got a player coach, and that relationship is a good one, and the player thinks that the coach has got his back, that player will jump through hoops. He won't be leaving for the most part. Okay, so now West Virginia Mountaineer fans, listen to what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to talk down on anybody. I'm just talking so that it's understandable by all. We have a Deion Sanders in our boat where the young men coming in, he can say, you know what? I know how to get players to the NFL. And you heard him say, Coach Drew, you heard him say, I'm going to be a big part in that recruiting on my end. He's not taking over the coach's part. Nothing to do with that. He's very respectful. He knows exactly his boundaries. But in those boundaries, what he has is this ability to say, come play at West Virginia because I know NFL talent. I know how to get NFL talent, and I know what they're looking for. Wow. That's how you're going to go ahead and get a WVU to go ahead and be successful, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. All right, Joey Foster, everybody. What's going on, Joey?
Hey, what's going on, Wolfman?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm sorry about Tony, man. I was really looking forward to him and talking about the Pac-12 and what was going down. And
yeah, he called me. He called me and said, "I don't know what's going on. I can see myself on the screen with Wolfman there, fine, but he can't see me." And I told him I couldn't see him either, so it wasn't coming through. So, but
we'll have to work that out because it's going to be something important. And
yeah, we'll get it figured out.
So I'm going to have you be the guinea pig here. First of all, what did you think of what I just said about with Drew, Coach Drew?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Uh-huh.
Because you're tough. You're tough, and
I want to go back to something that John was talking about though with Michigan.
Okay.
I think Michigan's a great team. I really do. I really think they're a really good team. I think Ohio State's a good team too. Just kind of feel like this is Penn State's year. I just feel like Penn State's going to win the Big Ten this year.
Well, let me tell you something. They got a really good team, and they're top 5 defense, and defense can still win you championships. And but it's John. He's all Michigan. Yeah. So, but again, I can't wait for that game, Michigan Penn State. Right? They play, don't they? Right?
Yeah, they play.
All right, so they play, and can't wait for that game. Can't wait to see how the Big Ten turns out. But what I was telling them was that, the Ohio States, your Michigans, they're top in the nation right now. I mean, if you look at it, top 25 of the CBS poll, they had Georgia as 1. I believe that they had Michigan as 2, Ohio State is 3, and then LSU 4, Alabama 5. But then they went back to USC at number 6. So again, is the top, the Big Ten, the eventual Big Ten, having 3 of the top 6 teams in the league right there, and being others. But the bottom half kind of stinks.
Yeah, it does. Well, if you look at the bottom half of about every conference, kind of stinks. I mean, every conference is like that. Every conference has their teams. It's not that they stink; they're better than those group of 5 teams. But
for the 14, would you say with the 10 teams that the Big 12 had, every team stunk? I guess you'd have to put a little bit of West Virginia down there the last year, but. they were 5-7, so they were just one game short of a bowl. But you didn't see Kansas was up. I mean, I don't know. I think the Big 12 is the most competitive.
Without a doubt, top to bottom, they are. We'll see with the 4 newcomers if that still holds true, because it has for the last 10 years. Top to bottom has been the best conference, both football and basketball, really, as far as parity and how well teams that you can take a top team in the league, like last year, Kansas State, TCU. TCU struggled in Morgantown, barely beat West Virginia. So that's the kind of games you get in the Big 12. Whereas in the Big 10, you take the top team in the Big 10 and they play one of the bottom teams in the Big 10, they're going to bull them out. There's not near as much, what I'm trying to say, polarity, or not as much competitiveness, right, top to bottom. So, one of the weakest conferences, I think. Everybody talks about the Pac-12, and yeah, you're right. The Pac-12 overall is weak as a conference, but I think the ACC is probably the weakest conference at the bottom. You've got Clemson. Normally, for the last several years, you've got Clemson and everybody else. Now you've got Clemson and possibly Florida State getting back in there, and you got Miami on a comeback. I really believe in them too down there right now. So but you get down to the bottom, you get down to the other teams in the ACC, and they're just not as competitive as the teams at the top. Not like the Big 12.
No, I agree with you, Joey. All right. Well, what did Tony tell you? Because you had Tony on last night. What did he tell you briefly? We'll make this quick. About the Pac-12. Where does it stand? What's the rumors? What sticks out to him? Because he's a strategist. That's what I really want to talk, because he's a consultant and strategist for the Pac-12. So go ahead, give the highlights of that.
Well, I tell you, so I think Tony, he's kind of at a wait and see what happens here, because Tony for a while didn't think anybody would jump from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. They just didn't feel like it was going to happen. Of course, Colorado has jumped. So now he's kind of up in the air. Okay, somebody's going to follow him, most likely. Arizona State, and Utah, possibly. Who knows? I feel like this, and I don't know how Tony feels about this. I feel like the Big 12 shouldn't sit and keep its door open forever. Make them do something in the Pac-12. Put a little bit of pressure on them and say, look, you got to let us know something here in the next 2 days.
I think Yormack, the commissioner for the Big 12, is pretty sharp. I really do.
I do too. I like Brent Yormark, and he's doing a great job, with our media and the publicizing for the Big 12 right now is probably at an all-time high, and I think it's only going to keep growing. So I think he's great for the Big 12. Now I still think, and there's going to be a team that comes to Colorado. Who's it going to be? I don't know. If anybody else jumps from the Pac-12, will we grab a UConn? I think.
Stop, Joey.
I don't want UConn. I'm not saying I want them. I'm just saying, for basketball.
I know basketball. I don't care about basketball for that part.
I know.
We got to get Arizona, so we're going to be good in basketball. That's a replacement of Oklahoma and Texas with Arizona. To me, that's a better program than both.
Now, one thing Tony mentioned the other day, and I did not know they had done this. So Arizona and Arizona State have the same board of regents and things, but they've been sticking together up until recently, and now the board of regents have left it up to the presidents of the universities of Arizona and Arizona State to decide with some oversight. They've still got to go to the board of regents and say what they'd like to do, but they get a kind of a decision in whether or not they go into the Big 12 or stay in the Pac.
Let me just put it this way, okay? When the mob got caught and they made big raids in the mafia, right? They were all tough when they were all together. But when the government got in there and they pulled them apart, they started saying, okay, you're doing this kind of time and they're going to kill you, so you better turn. That's kind of the same thing that's going on in the Pac-12 right now. They're all talking together, like they're going to hang in together, the Pac-12. But when they talk individually and behind closed doors, they're going to turn. The glue's going to come apart, and someone there needs to be proactive if they want to go ahead and save it, because I don't believe that bringing in the San Diego States and the SMUs are going to be the answer to making the Pac-12 an equal level Power 5 with the other 4. That's just
I'm afraid the Pac-12 was looking at things going, well, we'll be reactive instead of proactive of what's going on here. When they lost USC and UCLA, they didn't do either one. They didn't get proactive or reactive. They just kind of sat there, and kept hollering, we've got a media rights deal. We just can't share it with you right now, but we've got one. And now they've come out with it and showed it to the universities that they're not happy, obviously, with this media rights deal. So I feel like there's going to be some more movement. Just don't know who yet, and I don't think anybody does at this point. Somebody I don't know how big the Big 12's wanting to expand. They may just want to take one more team and go and stop at 14.
It could be, but think about this, Joey. Just like I said, that Rutgers UCLA game, there's going to be 1,000 people at the Rose Bowl for that game. Maybe the Pac-12 will go San Diego State and take UConn.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference, right? Same travel distance. Same travel. But that's what they got. I mean, that's it's tough. It's tough, and I feel bad for John Connor who came in. Or is it Cameron? I'm sorry. John Connor, I believe. He came in. He's a big Oregon State guy, and he came in with some legitimate talk about Oregon State, and all the money that they just put in, $120 million in their facilities. The baseball team is something that has been on top. The football team was in double-digit victories last year, although they haven't been there. So, again, with Corvallis, he is bringing it, but it's not – if you're not the number one state or a school, I just don't see that being the opportunity for the Big 12 to jump in unless you're piggybacking off of an Oregon. With what he calls his Uncle Phil Knight there. All right. So, anyways, okay, brother. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry about Tony Altimore. Hopefully next week we got some things going on, but take care, Joey. All right.
All right, man. We'll see you guys later.
Hey, you got a show tomorrow night, Friday night, right? What do you
sure
got?
do tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We sure do have a show. So be sure and tune back in to West Virginia football at the Voice of College Football. Sub up the channel and join me for the show tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
And give me a ton of likes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, Joe.
All right, brother. We'll see you later.
Yep. All right. That's good stuff. I'll tell you what, I don't know, man. I really am still that whole job with Coach Drew there has just got me all fired up today. And I love it, and I think it's one of the greatest moves the university may have done besides improving their facilities to compete and going ahead and getting that done. I mean, honestly, I really believe it. But let's go back to this real quick here. Monday, Jimbo's Place in Buckhannon. Now, there's a Jimbo's Place in Elkins, okay? But Jimbo's Place in Buckhannon is having their grand opening. And the WolfMan's Call, our show, that's me talking third person, but it's a show, all right? That's it right here. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to roll this up, all right, and finish this and make sure we get this out here. Right there. Let's play it for you. Hey, Buckhannon, get ready for Jimbo's Place and the WolfMan's Call. Monday, August 7th, downtown Buckhannon. Jimbo's Place is the grand opening, man. Show kicks off at 4. So does Jimbo's Place. Be there or be square on the WolfMan's Call. Boom! Did you get that? That was B square, and the square was blinking. I don't know if you got that or not. I wanted to make sure everybody saw that right there. But let's go ahead and finish it up. All right, Archies, East Carson Street. Man, they just put out, they got its Wing Night special tonight. If you're in Pittsburgh, you want to go to Archies. Talk to Pitt. I think we got him going there. He's got to give it a shot there. So, Mike Batty, man, look for Talk to Pitt. He's going to eat some wings. Brickside Bar and Grill in Bridgeport, Bridgeport, West Virginia. Rob Davis, eat local. He's got over 30 craft beers. Great job. That's what I was talking about. Jimbo's Place there in Elkins, West Virginia. So good that he had to open up another one here coming on Monday, 4 o'clock at Jimbo's Place in Buckhannon, West Virginia. Can't wait for that. We're going to do a show live. It's going to be cool. Frank Fear will be doing all that. And I'm sure we'll be breaking down some type of Big 12. Kegler Sports Bar and Grill. My man, Jerry the Wren's The Ring. You can kiss it. And you got Dougie Moore there. Love the royalty there at Kegler Sports Bar and Grill. And out Cheat Lake, we got Aaron Gizzy with the links out there in Lakeview. It's Legend Sports Bar and Grill. Great job out there, Giz, getting that place and the course right in shape, man. So good job, Aaron. And the Mason Jar Barbecue and the Mason Jar Saloon and Hotspot there. One's in Fairmont. The barbecue is in Fairmont and the Mason Jar Saloon is in Morgantown. Amazing food. Don't forget in Morgantown, you got the Mountaineer Tap House with Melissa out there. Make sure you treat her well. She's amazing. You have the Pallet down in Teays Valley. Big news coming about the Pallet real soon. Been real supportive. They're digging the WolfMan's Call Network. I love it. The Pallet and tip the servers. You heard it from me. And go to Hinton, West Virginia. The latest was Cantrell's River City Grill and Pub. Woo! Gotta love it, man. And last but not least, my favorite TV screens, the 12 50-inch screens put together. Boy, I tell you, I must be really good looking on that. Woo. All right, well, Route 22 Sports Bar, love it, man. And they got the bottoms up tap system, and they got some great food and music. So again, that's the WolfMan's Call Network. Happy man, Monday through Thursdays. Monday, 4 o'clock, we are going to go ahead and we are going to be there at the Jimbo's place in Buckhannon. All right, I hope everybody loved today with Coach Drew Fabianich for WVU. General manager, and director of scouting. Good job, West Virginia. Good job, football. Good job, Mr. Ren Baker, athletic director, and good job, Neil Brown. Totally dig it. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get into closing. Not everybody else is there. I got to get going. I got a road trip I got to head on, so we'll be seeing you. And don't forget about Monday, 4 o'clock, live. I'm talking to you, Buckhannon, and surrounding areas. How about this? How about TD?
Hi, I'm Traylon Davis. I'm from Jackson, Ohio, and when I'm back home, you will find me at my local Parmar store.
We had that gold and blue pride at your local Parmar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Parmar stores.
If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Stationers, #1 office supplier in West Virginia. Always in stock. How many? The anywhere, anytime chargers, powering a connected world. Never buy AA batteries again. Rechargeable 500 times plus. Paul Mini AA USB lithium battery, as easy to charge as your cell phone. Sustainable energy. Stay charged. Go green, save green. Feel the power of Paul. Order now at paulmini.com.